besides Brittany's problem of 24 offers in Lodi, um, I think this could be applicable. I've had a lot of conversations with agents recently about buyers and just like not wanting to feel like you're forcing them or right shoving a property down their throat, but how can you get them off the fence and actually take action that right you as the real estate expert know is in their best interest, but trying to get them there, I think is probably half the battle. Um, so how many of you guys have heard this, like, right? Like you talk to a buyer, you think they're interested, and they're just like keeping an eye on the market. I've
Lots
heard
of
this,
them.
yeah, from so many people. Oh, I'm just gonna wait. I'm just watching things. And you're like, okay, great, but you have no idea what you're doing, is really what you want to say to them. Because keeping your eye on the market is not a strategy. It's a decision that the buyer is subconsciously making to have to pay more for a property later. And so every single week or month or 6 months or year that a buyer waits, right, the market is going to make the decision for them. We know based on all the market stats that we've looked at over the last 3 years, prices have continued to go up. So the people that said this to you back in 2022, oh yeah, I'm just going to wait for rates to come down and then prices are going to fall, right, are now probably paying 10 to 15% more for the same house that they could have bought 3 years ago. And they're out 2 or 3 years on building equity, right? And so this is our opportunity to again level yourself up against the competition, be that expert professional, and be the agent who brings the data into the conversations that you're having with your buyers to earn their trust, right? The agent who wins the trust of the buyer and really the seller is the one who actually closes the deal. And so your job isn't to again, right, pressure a buyer into making a decision or purchasing a property. Your job here is to replace whatever their anxiety is with clarity based on what the market is telling us. And so I think, right, these people, there's always unique situations, but kind of fall into three different types. And each of these types has a different story and a different anxiety that is motivating their decision to wait. And it's critically important that you understand which one you're dealing with. Because if you talk to somebody who's worried about rates, about inventory, that doesn't matter to them. And so make sure you understand first and foremost what is causing their delay or their hesitation, and then know how to prescribe it. So the first type of buyer sitting on the fence are the, hey, I'm just going to wait for prices to drop, right? We have all heard this. These are people that feel like waiting is going to give them a better deal. They believe that, hey, I'm going to be the one who can go to work tomorrow and tell all my buddies that, oh, I got a steal of a deal on this house because I was patient enough to wait, right? They're driven by loss aversion and market speculation, right? So they hear one tiny little, blip in the news about how prices are dropping and they go, see, I was right. I knew it. But they forgot to listen to all the other 99 points about how prices are still appreciating and inventory is low and buyer competition is high. And so this type of buyer needs data that proves demand isn't softening. And we'll go through kind of what to show all of these people. But these are people that you need to put numbers in front of them and say, hey, I can appreciate you wanting to get a deal on a house. But there's a bunch of different ways we can get a deal on a house for you that makes you feel like you won without having to wait any further. The second option, I am dealing with some buyers right now who, knock on wood, right? I feel like they're the kind of buyers who are going to look for the next 2 years because every house we look at that checks all their boxes is pretty good, but maybe something's going to come up next weekend that could be better, right? These buyers have possibly, right, been burned by competition. They want to feel in control. And so once they saw inventory tighten and that competition go up, they pulled back and they put their guards up. And so these type of buyers need proof that the window to buy now is advantageous to them and it's not later. And then the third group, right, is, unclear about their finances, anxiety about what the rates are going to do. I'm just going to wait for rates to drop because it's going to save me money. And this is really an emotional blocker, not really a data problem. And logic alone doesn't move them because you can show them the numbers, but you have to get them to buy into why it's really the best option for them on a long-term plan. So they're looking at the current rates and what their payment's going to be right now, and they're feeling emotional about that, but they're not understanding, what their options are 1, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. And so as you're going into all of these conversations with buyers, the only ammunition you need to bring is market stats, right? Numbers don't have emotion. Numbers have facts. And so when you cite and know the market statistics, you don't really sound like an agent anymore. You don't sound like a salesperson. You sound like somebody who's a trusted advisor, right? Like imagine going into your financial advisor to trade stocks and you say, "Hey, what's the stock market doing?" And they go, "Oh, it's a great time to buy stocks." But they might drop, but they have no actual numbers about what their return on investment is going to give you. And so I send out 1 minute market stats every Monday. Make sure you guys are reading those, understanding them, and using them in your conversations. But you could study market stats for the next 5 hours. And the bottom line, what it's going to tell you is that demand is not softening. Because buyers are still showing up in large numbers, prices are not going to fall. We've talked about in plenty of other trainings about pricing properties correctly to get them sold. That's a totally different training. This is about buyers. And when buyers are still pushing demand, prices only have one way to go, and that's up. All of the statistics are up year over year, month over month. And so here's some scripts you can use, right? The first script is the people that are waiting for prices to drop. You can say something like, "Hey, in Dane County, the median sales price is 453,000 year to date, which is up from last year. We saw 501 homes sell, which is nearly a 9% increase from this time last year. When demand is that strong, prices don't have room to fall. And even if they dipped slightly, you'd be giving back any savings in a higher rate or more competition when everybody jumps in at the same time." The other talking point I like to throw in here too is like, "Hey, I can appreciate you wanting to wait. Isn't it reasonable to think that there's a ton of other buyers who are also willing to wait?" And they go, "Well, yeah, I mean, that's the smartest thing to do, right? I'm the smartest guy in the room." And you can say to them, "Right, okay, so if prices drop, where do you expect all those other buyers to find houses if you're still looking for a house?" And so this script works because it anchors that conversation in real local numbers that they can conceptualize. And it removes that emotional fantasy of like, "Oh, I'm just going to wait for 2008 to happen again, all these prices to drop, and then I'm going to go buy a house for half the price it is now." And it reframes the conversation as, "Hey, waiting is not a cost savings. It's going to be an expense to you." And so it forces them to counter back to you with logic and not emotion because you've put all the numbers on the table, right? Here's what you're going to pay now. Here's what you're going to pay later. Tell me which one makes sense. And it takes that emotion out of it because you're backing up your recommendation with data and statistics. And that kind of leads us into the second one. They're like, "Hey, we're just going to wait for more inventory to hit the market." Again, backing this up with data, you can say to them, "Hey, that's great. I understand that. But new listings, have jumped up 25% from February. But here's the thing. There's also a ton of other buyers who are waiting for more options. And they're going to see the same listings that you are because more inventory brought more competition back. So the window where you have more choices and less competition is right now, right? Not later in the summer, not next year. I know what the market is doing this week and likely next week, and this is your opportunity." You've got to frame it as an opportunity window to get them to kind of put their own guardrails up of the timing that they need to move on. And this one, you guys have all heard this, marry the house, date the rate. But use this script for people that are concerned about finances or waiting for rates to drop. Right. And again, reframing it using market data, right? If rates drop a full point, what do you think is going to happen to prices? More buyers flood in, inventory is going to get absorbed even faster than it is now. And so you're going to be competing against a bigger pool with far less leverage. So marry the house, date the rate, right? You can refinance, but you can't unpay an inflated price from a rate drop frenzy. This is important to help them understand. Yes, if rates go down, that's going to help you. but you're also going to compete, right? You're going to now pay over asking. You're going to be competing against 23 other buyers. You're going to be waiving inspections, adding in appraisal gap coverage, all of these things that we've seen in these markets when competition hits the roof. And you can't unpay that. If you want to buy a house, you're going to have to compete, and this is how you're going to have to compete to win. However, if you take action now when competition is lower, yes, rates might be at 6.5 or 6.75 or whatever they are on any given day. You can always refinance that when rates drop. And guess what? You're already going to be a homeowner. And so, right, this one is a little sticky because it has to deal with people's personal finances, and that is an emotional thing for a lot of buyers. And so, lead with empathy right here and validate the concern, and then reframe it. And reframe it as strategy, not as a debate or argument, right? You're trying to redirect them into what does a financial model look like for you to become a homeowner? I know what it looks like now, and I know what it looks like if you're going to wait for rates to drop. Here are your two options. Which one makes most sense for you and your family? Again, you can even handle an emotional situation like this with data and pulling the emotion out of it. Because again, data is facts and facts don't lie. And then this one, right, is kind of how we're going to recap all of it. And you can use this with any type of buyer or buyer objection that you're hearing. This is your close. And so this is how you can get the buyers after you've presented them the script and the data and the strategy and your recommendation to move from the conversation they just had to you to making a commitment. And so after you present the script, right, say something like, hey, let's set up a 30-minute search session this week. No pressure, no commitment. I'm going to show you what's available right now, what went under contract in the last 14 days, and what buyers in your exact position 6 months ago ended up paying. And if you still want to wait after that, totally respect it. Can we do Thursday or Friday? Right. Again, we've talked about using the assumptive close here and closing with a question. But again, you're going to say, hey, we just talked about why I think this strategy is the right path forward for you. Now come in and meet with me and let's go through the actual data together. We'll show you what's available right now. We're going to show you, right? Let's look at the same things, same houses that closed 6 or 12 months ago and what those sold for. If those buyers would have waited until they were in your shoes, right? That's going to create that natural urgency because they're going to go, oh, shoot, I probably was in those shoes 12 months ago and I could have bought this house for 300,000 and now you're telling me a comparative property is 350, right? They're going to create that urgency themselves. Show them what's happened in the last 2 weeks, what went under contract, what new listings hit the market, and let FOMO or fear of missing out do the rest. And then always close with that binary choice. Give them two options because they will choose one of them. If you try to close with, hey, when are you free? Right now comes every single excuse under the sun on why they have to get back to you. They've got to check their schedule. They've got to check their wife's work schedule. They've got to check their kid's soccer schedule. Right? If you say, can you meet Thursday or Friday? Right? Instantly, they're going to know which one of those works better for them. And so I think these buyers that are on the fence, a natural tendency of agents is to go, oh, they're not quite ready yet. Like, I'm just going to throw them in my CRM. They'll reach out to me when they're ready. But oftentimes, those people are a lot closer to buying than you think. They just need somebody, right, to help them get over their anxiety or their objection or whatever story they've told themselves with clarity. And that's what your opportunity is. These buyers have already done a lot of the mental lift of deciding that they want to buy a house. And so you're not convincing these people that they need to go buy a house, you're converting them into actual buyers. And that using that data is your differentiator between all the other agents in the market, right? This is how you become an expert agent, a professional, trusted advisor, right? Any agent can tell a buyer, oh yeah, now's a great time to buy. But by being specific and being the actual expert, that's how you can get your buyers into converting into actually purchasing homes. And so here's your action plan for today. I want you to write down one name. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, scribble it right now of one of those buyers you have that's been kind of sitting on the fence, just waiting, just watching things, waiting for inventory, waiting for rates to drop, not really sure when they want to buy. You should all have one on the top of your head, maybe even more than that. And so your challenge for today is to call or text that buyer, use one of the scripts, lead with value, lead with data stats, and then schedule an appointment with them by the end of the week. Help them understand that if they want to wait, that's fine, but the market is not going to wait for them. And so if they actually want to be in control of the decision that they want to make, now's the time to do it, and you're the one with the strategy to help them get there. Any questions? How many of you have a list of buyers that are sitting on the fence?
Yep,
Go get them.
I'm gonna.
Awesome. Well, thanks for showing up today, guys. I appreciate you. I hope you have a good Tuesday and reach out to me if you need anything.
Hold on. Nancy
Yep.
has something to say.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just gonna say, like, this is why I listen to these trainings. As long as I've been in the business, your script about, okay, you want to wait, so are other buyers. So it doesn't matter if more inventory is coming because more buyers are. I have never said that.
Yeah.
So thanks for pointing that out. I just showed a house for Mallory last week and they're like, yeah, it just seems like more and more listings are coming on and we're really encouraged. So we're just going to hold out for the right one. And I'm like, I get that there, there is more inventory and that would have been perfect for me to say, but then it's going to bring more buyers. Or
Hmm.
with interest rates, that's going to bring more buyers. So now is the only time we really can tell you, you know, what's happening. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. I
I
picked
also
up.
feel like with buyers, and maybe it's more pertinent to first-time buyers or younger buyers, I'm not really sure, but there seems to be this mentality that I'm buying a house, I'm making this massive purchase, and I need to get it right on the first go. Like, I need to find the house that I'm going to live in for the next 30 years. And I
Yeah.
think part of their hesitation is like, yeah, I kind of like it, but like, is it my forever home? And helping buyers understand that, like, yes, this is a massive financial decision you're making, but you're never stuck anywhere, right? You always have options. Nancy, for example, right? You sold your house on Ash Street in December and it's back on the market and under contract. Those buyers were not stuck and it's been 6 months.
Yeah.
And so helping them get through that anxiety of like, I have to find the perfect house in the perfect location at the perfect price point right now, or I'm never going to buy something. So, layer in the chart that is the cost savings of renting versus buying if your buyers are currently renters, or right, the cost savings of building equity in a house over a 2-year, 3-year timeline so that they can see right short-term gains and get them to break that I've got to find something that can fit my life for the next 20 years. Alrighty. Great job, guys. We'll see you soon and have a good Tuesday.
Thank you.